with my face in horrendous close-up vision like never before seen. So we're essentially going to be dissecting some fairly common powerlifting programs that people have kind of heard of and just seeing how they stack up in terms of the training principles we discussed from the RP book, Scientific Principles of Strength Training, and just kind of seeing how they level up. And I mean, we're not really going to have a chat about it because it's just me talking to a video. We're just going to talk through kind of why they're good, why they're bad, how they could be improved, what you could do to improve them if you use them yourself, and where you could go if you wanted to further your training. So first up on the chopping block, 531, probably one of the most prevalent and successful strength programs on the interwebs. Maybe not as much as VAV, but then like, I don't know, you can't get better than 5x5. Like, why even try? 531 is designed as basic strength template for general strength. It's not specific to powerlifting, although there is powerlifting specific ones. There's also football, American football specific ones, and various other iterations that have come through over the years, but the one we're looking at is just the general strength program. So again, keep that in mind, especially considering first on the chopping block, specificity. How does it stack up as a general strength block? So general strength, usually trained between 70, 75, 85%-ish, somewhere in those regions. Reps, usually between 5 and heavy singles, really, depending. It all kind of contributes, although the heavy single end is usually towards max kind of strength. So week one, typically you do 4 lifts. In fact, you do bench, squat, deadlift, and overhead press in some variant. So you would do the first week's workout, which is, there's some warm-up stuff included, but we're just talking about working sets. Like, the warm-up sets don't fucking count. 65% for 5, 75% for 5, and then 85% for 5+. The 5+ is a kind of recurring theme in the program where you do essentially an AMRAP on one of the workouts. I'm pretty sure you can't do it. You can put it in as often as you feel you can, but I think it's written in the program as you can pick one a week and do an AMRAP on it. I think. I could be wrong. It doesn't really matter. The AMRAP is just a kind of strength basis to see it, or a bit of a strength test to see if you are improving kind of bit to bit, because if you take the weight that you previously could only do 8 reps with on a 5+ and do 12 reps with it, you are obviously stronger, so you can alter your numbers based on that. 65% for 5, 75 for 5, 85 for 5+. Seems pretty good. My only issue with that is if you are doing that for squat, then bench, then deadlift, then military press, and that's just your 4 workouts of the week, that means you're getting 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of bench, 3 sets of this, 3 sets of that. So not very much volume. Even as strength training is concerned, obviously this isn't hypertrophy, which this is just general strength stuff. The recommended, or like even using the highest volume accessory work, which is that boring but big, that's what it's called, is 5 sets of 10 as accessory work. Even on that, you're really only tacking 5 extra sets of each. So you're going to 8 sets a week. So we've got 8 sets kind of max per week there. And that doesn't really change throughout the program. Again, you can see these are just the working sets. Like, each thing comes with a warm-up of like, do 40% for 5, 50% for 5, and then go on to these things. The next thing is, next week is 70%, 80%, 90% for 3, 3, and 3+ respectively. Again, pretty cool. Decreasing the reps, which means you will, and increasing the weight, so you're gonna go progress in weight. Kind of cool. Again, we've got that 3+ thing for your AMRAP kind of testing idea. But again, even with the boring but big accessory work, that's still only 8 sets in a week per lift, which generally kind of falls a bit too low for strength work. Even for strength work, like, it's not cool by my books, it's too low. So, and again, third week, same problem, it only comes up to 8 sets. 531 is quite cool in the fact it actually has its own deload built in and is meant to be kind of cyclical in nature, where you run multiple iterations of the same training, except you can change the lifts, change the accessory work style, and there's built-in deloads, which is lacking in a lot of cookie cutter programs, especially good old VAV, which is where a lot of the issue comes in the fact that you do need to deload. Like, you need to take periods, right? Even if people don't like that word, you need to take periods of lowered or much more recoverable amounts of training volume in order to prolong training longevity. Otherwise, you will die. Like, you'll snap. There's no ifs, ands, buts, anything. Like, you'll just hurt yourself. That's it. End of. So that's kind of cool. So how does it rack up specificity-wise? Like, the intensities are right, like, or within normal ranges for what you would want for general strength. Like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of cool that they have the AMRAP stuff, so you can, like, again, see strength progressions, and it is, you know, a bit of variance going on there. My only issue with it, in terms of being specific for general strength, is the fact that the volume's too low. Like, if this was bumped up to, essentially if you added, or essentially just like chucked an extra set on each of the work sets, or even if you wanted to pyramid it up so that you ended up with 6 total sets split to like 1 extra set, 2 extra sets, 3 extra sets, that would be a much more valid amount of volume for a general strength block, and that's all you would have to change. So you could literally keep your 65% set, just do two 75s of that, and then 3 sets at 85, and then maybe ditch the 5+, or maybe keep the 5+ just for the end. So there you go from 3 sets plus the 5 from the accessory work, assuming you're doing the most voluminous accessory work, to 8. So you get another 9, and then 10, 11 on there. So like 11 sets, or anything above 10, between 10 and 12, that's totally way more workable. Like, that's a really good idea, I think, in order to change that. And it's a pretty simple change, I think. I don't think it takes, like, you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure that one out. And you could just echo that change all the way through. So you could go 2 there, 3 there, same there, 2 there, and then 3 there. That also kind of adds in, especially the triple at 95% singles, and then get rid of the 1+s. Unless, I don't know, maybe you want to keep it on the last set, which is kind of cool. That would be kind of fun. And keeping it like that, so 3 95% singles, that's pretty hard going. Like, that's pretty good intensity and stuff. That's pretty cool. Deload is good. I think you could probably, if you increase this volume here, you would obviously have to increase deload volume. Like, deload is not just do nothing, it's do the minimum you need to do to not get worse, so that you don't incur any more training fatigue, but you also don't incur any devolution in training. Like, your fitness doesn't tank because you're not stimulating it at all. So, overload, how does it stack up against that? Well, we gain increasing in intensity each week. It's overloading. It's pretty cool. We deload it, and then we start again, hopefully with more increased weights. Again, the overall idea is that it is reasonably linear, in the fact that doing enough of this will net you strength gains to the point where you can continually, or marginally continually, improve over time. So yeah, it's okay there. Does the volume overload? Not really. Again, my issue so far with this whole thing has been the volume is fairly static. It doesn't really change. You do the same amount of sets every week. So that's not so good. Intensity does. Proximity to failure, that can change, especially depending on how often you throw in that plus set. Again, the plus set isn't going to break you. Like, doing 1 set till failure once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, that's really not going to do it. However, what you could do to kind of increase overload, if you were wanting to use specifically the plus set, is, for example, do 1 plus set here on week 1, 2 plus sets here, and then 3 plus sets here. And that changes the game up a bit. So what we've got here is, assuming you'll have to do it on the top set. So one of these 3 sets is a plus set, maybe the last one. 2 of these, and again, this is for each workout, is a plus set. So you do 1 triple at 90% just for 3, and then the next 2 you do for 3+. That's pretty rad. And then all 3 of these 95% ones could be plus sets. Like, that's a pretty cool way to overload it. And you're increasing total proximity of failure each week, which is another way of overloading. It's kind of cool. Fatigue management, again, that's not really anything to do with the program, aside from just that's mostly just based on like frequency and volume amounts. So, for example, some of the programs we might look at are extremely high frequency training to the point where if you don't manage the volume well enough, you will not have, like, you can have the best fatigue management in the world, but you're not actually giving yourself enough physical time between work, or you're doing too much work too often for even the best well-intentioned fatigue management to be possible. So, but that's not an issue here. Again, volume's the issue, so fatigue management is actually almost, that's again why 531 has become super popular, I feel, is because it isn't actually towards the optimal amount of volume. It's super easy to recover from, but is stimulating enough strength-wise, because the percentages are quite high, and there's those AMRAPs, that people can net some gain from it. Like, this isn't a question of if it works or not. It certainly works, otherwise it wouldn't fucking sell so many copies. It's just, what could we do, or what could you do, to make it more effective with minimal effort on your part? Like, what could you chuck in to, like, spice up your 531, if that's what you want? Or, if you're kind of interested of, like, I've been running 531 for people, like friends or clients or people at the club or whatever, and you're like, how could we make it better because they're kind of stagnating a bit, I don't really know what to do. This is the kind of shit that we need to get into. SRA, getting into SRA, again, that's mostly just training frequency. Another issue with 531 is you only do each of the main lifts one session a week. So you, like, train squats Monday, and then it is, like, next Monday before you do any other squatting, unless you were to shift the accessory moves to different days, which, again, considering we're caring about kind of weekly, weekly volume, that could be an appropriate option. So as it stands, if you do 531 as red, squat Monday, no other squats till next Monday, that's pretty shitty. You don't get much technical practice, considering the balancing act of squatting too much can lead to RSIs or connective tissue degradation, because you're training it very frequently, especially if you're doing it heavy. So you can just break shit down and not give yourself enough time to recover. Problem is, you've got to train squat often enough so that you don't forget how to squat, or that you can gain technical proficiency with concise, frequent practice. The technical SRA degrades in a few days. You can kind of become, almost not that it's noticeable, but you can kind of get rusty after like 2 or 3 days. So you want to strike a balance between, like, often enough so that you can gain technical proficiency, but not so often that you blow yourself up. So one solution that I've already mentioned is, if we squat Monday, if we're doing that boring but big accessory work where we're doing 5 sets of 10 or whatever it is, you do that on a different day and do maybe your bench boring but big after your main squats. So you could do your squats, blah blah blah, then do 5 sets of 10 on bench. For one, you'll be fresher to do the volume, so you'll probably get a bigger training effect because you can use more weights because you're not doing it after your main work. 2, it gives you an opportunity to stagger when you bench throughout the week. So you could do main squats, bench accessory on Monday, and then do main bench, squat accessory, for example, on Thursday. And that gives you, rather than 7 days till your next squat, it's only Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So it's only 3 days of no squatting. That's way better than 7. You can essentially, you'll just have to chop and change the other 2 lifts so that they match up as well. You can pair them however you want. Obviously, I wouldn't probably do squatting volume after main deadlifting, or the other way around. I'd pair it upper and lower, or lower and upper, however you fancy. Variation, if you're doing boring but big, I mean, the key's in the name, boring. However, because you're only running these cycles 4 weeks at a time, you have plenty of opportunity to mix in variety if you want. I would, depending on, well, let's think of it, like 531 is pretty much for entry-level stuff. That's why it's very simple and very easy to get. If you're a beginner, variation isn't as important for you because you haven't been training enough to build up any kind of, like, you haven't maxed out your ability to gain training stimulus from anything. Like, you suck, so you get better with literally everything. You can pretty much go sniff the weight and you'll get better. So, variation, whilst 531 kind of lacks in it, you've got a lot of opportunity to kind of take it on board yourself and, like, I don't know, every 4 cycles you run this, change up a lift. And I mean, like, you can change all the main ones, but you don't have to change them by a lot. Just change it from, like, squats, back squats to front squats, or high bar to low bar back squats, or bench to tempo bench, or incline, or some shit. Like, don't change it up too far. Don't be trying to do 5-3-1 like dumbbell bench. That's stupid. Keep it strength specific. Again, it's meant to be general strength, so don't be going trying to hypertrophy specific exercises like split squats, leg press, and all that jazz on 5-3-1. Don't do it. Phase potentiation. 5-3-1 is actually cyclical. Like, you can cycle it back to back. There are no different phases of training in 5-3-1. It is literally just a strength block. In that fact, it is pretty one-dimensional, but it doesn't pretend to be anything else, so it's fine. Be aware that you can run 5-3-1 for too long, even with decent variation and making some of the changes we've done here. How you could sort that is if you found some kind of other block goal, like a volume block that's cookie cutter, we might cover one later, and essentially manage to phase your training, and having 5-3-1 is just your general strength block with your volume block before it. So you have like, I do volume for these amount of cycles, months, blocks. And then afterwards, I'll transition into strength and do my 5-3-1 cycles, and I'll cycle 3 months of 5-3-1, and I will change the exercises in it once, and that's my strength block for 3 months. That's like a way better plan to have, even if it's that rough, than, I don't know, just do 5-3-1 forever, bro, I don't know. So even just having that kind of rough outline and just blocking that off in like a timeline will get you a lot further in training than just like blindly just going week to week doing 5-3-1 till I don't know, till it stops working, till you get bored, till you get hurt, who knows. Individual differences. 5-3-1 doesn't really factor into individual differences. That's going to be a constant problem with online coaching, with cookie cutter online programs, as they are by definition cookie cutter. Like, there are hard cutoffs because they are designed to just be gone, thought, and used by the general populace. Like, they are not catered. Very few that I've heard of will have any, like, oh, if you have this problem, do this. If you have this problem, do that. It is mostly like you'll have to go to the forums where people just fucking moan and be like, herp-a-derp, my knees hurt and I can't squat. How do I do small off squat cycles? You're just like, you don't. To go over the changes we covered, general main issue with 5-3-1 is a lack of volume. What you can do for that is add in additional sets to take it up to a more reasonable amount of volume for a strength block. You can use the plus sets that are already part of the program and just kind of be a little bit sneaky with it and increase them as the weeks go through, to the point where you're doing the most of them and the hardest work, where you have a deload next to it, so you can do a much better job of overloading the proximity to failure and overloading yourself as you go through the blocks. Fatigue management, again, the volume issue means that super easy to manage fatigue. You could pretty much not sleep and do 5-3-1 and it'd still be fine. SRA, there's not enough frequency. Variation, back on the SRA point, stagger your accessory work and your main work, so that you don't just do all of your squatting for the week on one day. Break it up and mix it in with some other lift, ideally lower than upper. So do main squat, then bench accessory, then do main bench, then squat accessory, deadlift, then mill accessory, mill, then deadlift accessory. That way you're getting more practice throughout the week whilst maintaining the same amount of volume over the same period. And the other two we just pretty much covered. So yeah, cool. Tell me what you think, guys. Leave questions, comments, thoughts. If you're going to report me to Jim Wendler and get a copyright strike because this doesn't come under fair use, which it does, yeah, crack on. That'll be hilarious. Leave dank memes and insults in the comments, as always. And we're going to be back at this with, I think we might be doing 5x5. No, we're not doing 5x5. I don't know, we might do cube, small, something like that. We'll have a look. Leave comments and suggestions below for something you'd like broken down and talked about. Catch you later.